Prison nights are the worst. Terrifying reality of UK and US inmate life. Subscribe, like, comment, because once the lights go out, no one hears you scream, and this story only gets darker. The body was found just before dawn, slumped against a steel door that hadn't been opened since midnight. Cell Block D smelled of bleach and cold sweat. Inmates were already awake, whispering through vents and cracks, trading rumors like contraband. The man on the floor, Marcus Hale, 32, serving a short sentence for fraud, had survived the day. It was the night that killed him. Officers said it was undetermined. The cameras flickered between frames from 1:12 a.m. to 3:47 a.m., a blind stretch everyone pretended not to notice. The prison's night shift was thin, the kind of thin that lets things happen. Hale's face was bruised, his knuckles raw, his eyes frozen open like he'd been waiting for help that never came. Detective Sarah Whitmore arrived while the sky was still gray. She'd seen prison deaths before, but this one felt staged, placed almost. Hale wasn't in his cell. He wasn't supposed to be anywhere near the segregation wing. And yet there he was, outside a door reserved for men who screamed all night and spoke to no one. Whitmore started with the logs. Doors opened at 12:58 a.m. A maintenance pass signed by an officer who wasn't on duty. A medical alert triggered at 2:21 a.m. and cleared without a response. In the UK, a sister facility had logged 3 self-harm incidents after lights out the same week. Different countries, same hours, same silence. Inmates told stories in fragments, banging doors like coded warnings, shouts that meant move now or don't move at all. In the US, solitary tears echoed with voices that never reached a human ear. In the UK, prisoners learned which screams were real and which were tests. Night taught them the difference. Whitmore interviewed Hale's cellmate, a quiet lifer named Brooks. He said Hale had been afraid of nights. Said he'd heard something through the pipes. A schedule, a promise. They said the dark was safer, Brooks whispered. They lied. By noon, a second alert came in. A corrections officer failed to report for shift. His locker was empty. His badge was found near the segregation wing, bent like it had been stepped on. And when Whitmore finally got authorization to open the locked door Hale had died beside, she noticed something etched into the paint at eye level. 3 words scratched deep. Lights out, listen. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one, hit subscribe so you don't miss it. By nightfall, the prison felt tighter, like the walls had leaned in after learning someone was finally paying attention. Detective Whitmore stayed. She knew better than to leave a case like this until morning. Prison nights didn't wait. The missing officer was identified as Daniel Mercer, 26, barely a year on the job. No history of violence. No disciplinary marks. The kind of officer inmates called soft, which in prison was never a compliment. His last radio transmission cut off mid-sentence at 1:41 a.m. The dispatcher noted background noise, metal striking metal, then shouting. After that, nothing. Whitmore walked the segregation tier as lights dimmed. The air changed after dark. Conversations didn't stop. They went underground. Knuckles tapped walls in patterns that carried meaning. Somewhere down the tier, someone laughed too long, too loud. It wasn't humor. It was survival. She pulled footage from a UK prison flagged in an interagency report. Same hours. Same gaps. A prisoner named Callum Reed had died during lockdown, ruled suicide. But the night logs showed doors opening that shouldn't have opened. Medical alarms silenced. Officers reassigned without records. Someone had learned how to make nights invisible. Back in cell block D, Whitmore questioned Brooks again. This time, he talked faster. Said Hale had discovered something during kitchen duty. Names traded between facilities. Favors moved across oceans. They use the nights, Brooks said. Too few eyes. Too much noise. You can hide anything in noise. A sudden scream ripped through the tier. Then another. Officers ran, keys clattering. By the time they reached the cell, the inmate was alive but bleeding, wrists shredded with a sharpened spoon. He kept repeating the same phrase between sobs. I couldn't sleep. They told me not to sleep. Medical logs showed the alert came in late. Again, Whitmore traced Mercer's badge scans. One final entry blinked on her screen at 2:58 a.m. Segregation Wing, Service Corridor B. A place without cameras. A place designed decades ago for discretion. When she pushed for access, the warden stalled. Paperwork. Jurisdiction. Morning. Then her phone buzzed. An anonymous message. No number. Just coordinates and a photo attached. The image showed a concrete corridor smeared with something dark. A corrections badge lay in the corner, snapped clean in half. Scratched into the wall above it, deeper than Hale's warning, were new words. Night shift belongs to us. Whitmore realized then this wasn't about one death. Or one prison. It was a system built on darkness, and someone was making sure it stayed that way. The coordinates led Whitmore off prison grounds to a maintenance tunnel sealed on paper, but alive with traffic. It ran beneath the outer fence, a forgotten artery from another era. The air inside was wet and metallic, humming with distant machinery. Halfway down, she found Daniel Mercer's uniform stuffed behind a junction box. No blood, no body, just his radio, crushed, and a single word etched into the plastic casing. Quiet. By morning, the warden was furious. Access revoked. Cooperation reduced to rehearsed statements. Whitmore felt the walls closing in, the same way inmates described it after lights out. Evidence began slipping through her fingers. Logs were amended. Files went missing. A UK investigator she'd been coordinating with stopped answering calls. Then an email arrived from his account. 3 words only. Drop the case. Instead, Whitmore dug deeper. She learned Hale had been moving money inside. Microtransactions routed through commissary credits bounced between US and UK facilities. Not drugs. Not weapons. Information. Night schedules. Camera gaps. Officer rotations. A black market blueprint of when prisons went blind. Another death hit the UK facility that night. An inmate collapsed in his cell, untreated for hours. Official cause. Medical emergency. Unofficially, witnesses heard banging doors and coded shouts warning of a sweep. Someone had been testing response times. Someone had been counting minutes. Back home, Brooks was found unconscious during count. He survived, barely. In the infirmary, he grabbed Whitmore's sleeve and whispered, "They know you're awake." The next night, the prison went into lockdown after a fire alarm tripped in segregation. Smoke filled the tiers. Officers scrambled. Whitmore watched the monitors as 3 camera feeds went dark, right on schedule. In the confusion, a figure moved through the service corridor, face hidden, walking like they belonged. A body was found an hour later. Not an inmate. It was the warden's deputy, dead in his office chair, a syringe on the desk, his computer wiped clean. The message this time wasn't scratched. It was printed, taped neatly to the screen. Nights are when truth slips. Whitmore understood the pattern now. Hale hadn't been a victim by chance. He'd tried to sell the system to the wrong buyer. Mercer hadn't disappeared. He'd been recruited or removed. The network didn't need violence every time. It needed silence. As dawn broke, Whitmore realized she wasn't chasing a killer anymore. She was racing a clock that only moved after dark. Whitmore stayed another night. By now, she wasn't just investigating, she was embedded. Every shadow on the tier felt alive, every metallic clang a warning. She reviewed Hale's notes again, scribbled in a mix of shorthand and symbols only a prisoner could invent. Something clicked. The pattern wasn't random. It was organized. Night after night, across continents, someone had mapped the blind spots and exploited them. At 1:47 a.m., the first signal came. A series of knocks, soft but deliberate, pulsing through the vent near Brooks' cell. Whitmore followed the sound, keys in hand, heart hammering. The knocks led her to a crawl space above the service corridor, a place where maintenance crews rarely went. Inside, she found a network of hidden cameras, tiny speakers, and a laptop still logged in. The screen displayed live feeds from both US and UK prisons, some labeled Tier D, segregation, lights out. Then she noticed the names. Every officer, every warden, Every deputy who had disappeared or died over the last month was crossed out. And at the top, her own name. A whisper came from the shadows behind her. "You've been watching too long, Detective." Whitmore spun. A figure stepped into the dim light. Mercer. Alive. Bloodless. Expressionless. Eyes trained and cold. "They didn't take me," he said. "I chose to stay. You think this is about crime? This is about control. Nights belong to us, Detective. Every unsupervised second. Every blind corner. You can't stop it. You can only survive it." Her pulse raced, instinct screaming, but she kept calm. She knew what Hale had discovered, what Brooks had feared, and now Mercer was confirming it. The prison nights weren't just dangerous, they were designed. A silent network of power stretching from cell to cell, wing to wing, across oceans. Whitmore backed toward the exit, realizing the horrifying truth. The system wasn't failing, it was functioning perfectly for those who understood it. She had proof. She had evidence, but releasing it would put her in the crosshairs of something larger than any department or government agency. As she emerged into the gray dawn, the prison alarm rang. Not a real emergency, just another signal, coded, waiting for the next night. Whitmore glanced back at the building, a concrete fortress of secrets. Some of the horrors she'd witnessed could never leave those walls. Some of the people she'd tried to save wouldn't survive the next lights out. And she understood, finally, what every inmate knew. Nighttime in prison isn't just dark, it's alive. Whitmore walked away, heart heavy, mind racing, knowing the story wasn't over. For the ones trapped inside, the nights were endless. And for those watching, the terror was just beginning. The screen fades to black, leaving the echo of that last whispered warning. Nights belong to us.